Welcome to the ODDSBREAKER'S #1 place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 33 of 2021. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at The ODDSBREAKERS and follow us on social media / The ODDSBREAKERS. This episode is being brought to you by mybookie.ag. For a 50% sign-up bonus, please visit MyBookie and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms, conditions, and location apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs and sponsor the website and the podcast, we'd love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $24.99 a month, you can get my premium plays before the line moves. And if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. My friends, we have a great show for you today because Marco D'Angelo from wagertalk.com is here to break down the Kentucky Derby coming this Saturday. Very excited to bring Marco on. And we also have a UFC play for you for Saturday night to round out your betting extravaganza. Well, we have a lot to talk about, my friends. Marco and I went pretty long, so without further ado, let's get right into this podcast with Mr. Marco D'Angelo from wagertalk.com. Now, I'm very excited to welcome back one of the best cappers in the sports betting and horse racing world that I know. You know him as Mr. Marco D'Angelo from wagertalk.com and the Pony Pundits show. Marco, we are back for the Kentucky Derby this week. And guess what? We also have the NFL draft going on tonight, don't we, my man?
Busy time, Kiev. Everything going on. And you know me, if it comes down to the NFL draft and Kentucky Derby, I'm going to take the Kentucky Derby over it. I'll worry about the draft after it's done and everybody lands where they land, and then we'll start working on football. But right now, it's the greatest 2 minutes in sports, or as my wife would refer to it, our honeymoon.
Well, hey, man, two minutes is a long time these days, but let's talk. I think most guys will tell you that. Let's go to talk about the obviously the draft a little bit. We don't have to spend much time on it because the good news on Saturday is what? The big rounds are done with, right? 2, 3. I think Saturday is just going to be 4, 5, 6, and 7 anyway. So all the focus is going to move to the Kentucky Derby anyway, and you are one of the best. You guys just check out Marco's Twitter. Find him at Marco in Vegas. Huge ticket recently, the past few years, $9,000+ on a trifecta, my man. So that's the kind of payout we're looking for. And why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what's going on with, we'll start with the contract here. You told me before we came on, there's a contract between Churchill Downs and Vegas. That hasn't went through yet, has it?
No, this happens every year here in Vegas, and until last year. And what it is, Churchill Downs, Twin Spires, they've got the Kentucky Derby. They feel they got the world by, you know what, and they always demand they want, a higher percentage. The way it works is the tracks get a percentage for, the Vegas books carrying their signal and offering pari-mutuel wagering. And why that is so important is there's a difference between pari-mutuel wagering and in-house wagering, and that difference is pari-mutuel. All the monies from all of the tracks all over the country go into one pool. And that's why I preach every year that I come on your show. The Kentucky Derby is one of the best plus EV situations for an advantage player like myself that has an edge over just John Q. Public betting horse racing. Because unlike betting sports, Kiev, it's you against the sports book. You walk to the window, you lay your 11 to 10, they put up a number, you either take the favorite or you take the dog and call it a day. Their in-house edge is that 10% juice. Doesn't matter who's betting what. Yes, the line will fluctuate. Maybe you might be laying 6 early in the week and that line might get to 7 later in the week. But the difference with horse racing is all the money that is bet, the tracks make a certain amount of money. They take a hold from that. Call it a fee for handling the bets. So they don't care if the 1-9 favorite wins or a 99-1 shot wins. The tracks make the same amount of money. Why it's important for us is because the more people that bet, the bigger that pie is, so to speak, that we're dividing up by the winning tickets. So when you're betting horse racing compared to betting sports, you are betting against everybody else. And I hate to use the phrase, but it's true. There's a lot of dead money, Kiev, in events like the Kentucky Derby because it's an event. People want to be a part of it. It's a party. They know absolutely nothing about horse racing, but they want to bet money. It inflates the pool and causes an overlay. And for me, that's a chance to make good money. Now, the problem is here in Nevada, they didn't sign the agreement. Every year, it came down to basically the 11th hour, and they caved and signed a contract, reached an agreement to carry Churchill's signal. However, last year was the first year that Vegas said, you know what? No, we're not caving in. They didn't. And the reason last year was, if you remember, because of the pandemic, the Kentucky Derby was moved to September, the first Saturday in September instead of the first Saturday in May. Well, the first Saturday in September, you're going against college football. And Vegas said, you know what? The Kentucky Derby's not going to be as big of a draw as it is in other years. So, you know what? We're not going to do it. And what they ended up doing was in-house wagering. You could still bet the Derby. Nevada gave the books permission, but it was house odds. They would pay track odds to a certain point. So those monster paydays, because of the inflated pool, if you're playing it in Vegas this year and they don't settle by Saturday, you hit a big one, you see the payoff on the TV screen, that's not going to be the payoff you're going to get. Each casino will have certain capped limits. I don't have what the numbers are for each casino, but they will have caps. They will only pay a certain amount. So, you get all excited and think you hit a $9,000 try, and then find out, no, I didn't, because it was capped at maybe $3,000. It's a little disappointing.
Yeah, that's got to be a little disappointing. So hopefully wherever you go to bet, you can check that. Make sure you take a look at it because you don't want to get screwed by one place that's going to have a much lower cap than other ones. So keep that in mind when checking that. But, hopefully you still get a decent payout here. And there's still a chance this contract's going to go through, right, Marco?
There's still a chance. We'll see if they cave before. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen today. They would reach an agreement today, so they would be in place to have the Kentucky Oaks on Friday, and then, of course, the Derby on Saturday. But, the only reason why we're handcuffed here in Nevada is because we do have sports books. The sports books, make a lot of money with the race book section of the sports book. They do not let organizations like TVG, First Bet, where, people around the country can use those options. But here in Nevada, we can't. And if you are betting through somebody like TVG or First Bet, those are pari-mutuel. You do get full track odds. So definitely do that. The only thing you have to worry about is, if you're doing anything offshore, check the caps at offshore books because some of them will pay full track odds, some won't.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, like Bet Online, maximum net profit for race, $25,000. So if you're going to go crazy on a long shot, and they're up 350 to 1, so your trifecta, what you could have got at Churchill Downs would be a heck of a lot more than you would get in this situation. Well, good stuff, Marco. But before we get into the race itself, we have the NFL draft tonight. And, as a Steelers fan that you are, you have a big running back that they seem to be eyeing up. Do you think that they're going to grab Najee at the 26th spot?
It's the recent trend in the NFL is you don't burn, a high draft pick on a running back. The running backs, 15 years ago, when we were 3 yards in a cloud of dust, meant a lot more than, today. And so many running backs, don't even see the field on third downs anymore. So we've seen a move where top draft picks have not been a running back, but because the Steelers did make the playoffs, I think I remember them coming on the field for that playoff game. I don't remember anything else after that against the Browns, but they did make the playoffs, so they're drafting late in the first round. If the running back is still there that late in the first round, I would look for them to take the running back to fill that need. Last year, they had no balance at all, Kiev. James Conner was, hurt off and on different times of the year. None of the backups really made a difference, and the Steelers changed their identity. They were pass, and that's, poor Art Rooney with that, cigar in his mouth was rolling over in his grave. But James Conner has moved on. They didn't re-sign him. They chose to re-sign Juju, which I was actually surprised. I thought they were going to let both guys go. But if I believe correctly, you guys picked up Connor, right?
No. Well, Arizona picked up Cardinal, but I'm a lowly Bears fan. If you remember,
yes,
if you remember, Marco.
I knew you were a Wisconsin fan, but I didn't know you had double misery.
Yeah, I do have double misery because you never know what Ryan Pace is going to do. He's so unpredictable, and you've seen that with his crazy moves of picking guys like Adam Shaheen in the second round. And the first year he gets a quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. It's hard. It was a terrible pick, and a lot of the fans that know a little bit more and understand football and bet on it were against that pick, such as myself. But all the draft pundits out there, Mel Kipers, all those guys had Mitch as their number one quarterback, which was frustrating. It's like the guy listens to them. Who knows? The Bears are in a situation where they suck, but they're picking number 20 because they made the playoffs. It's like the worst team to make the playoffs. You ever want to be in that predicament? Not really.
Yeah, and apparently they don't. How many times when we talk about statistics in sports, the comeback is, well, that's a small sample size. Well, obviously Mitch Trubisky was a very small sample size because he has a 13 game career at North Carolina, and yet that propelled him to be a number one pick for the Bears. But hey, okay, that's why you look at things larger than a small sample size.
Great point. And in that sample size, they went like 500 that year anyway, so figure that one out, my man. Well, anyways, they left on some bad terms, and they grabbed Dalton, but there's speculation that they can go reach for a quarterback by giving up the farm, but would Ryan Pace have the keys to that car anymore when this could be his last year? I doubt that he can mortgage any more of the future to try to do something like that. They're stuck with Dalton here. And I guess if you look back, he did have one or two good years way back when I think it was 2013 or something like that. But we saw him last year and he didn't look so good for the Cowboys. So there you go. I think they draft offensive tackle. But do you have any quick plays that you think have some value for tonight?
Honestly, Kiev, I am not one of the guys that is a draftnik, and I have not made any plays. And unfortunately for me, with it being Derby week, I have been focused on the daily sports that we need to do, which, knock on wood, has been running very good for us right now. And dealing with 20 equine athletes all week, breaking that down and watching film. So while everybody else is watching draft films, I'm watching replays of horses this week from all of the Derby preps that I watched them all. But as I tell everybody, never go with what you just watched live yourself, because your eyes are tainted when you watch those races, because you're geared on whoever you bet in that particular race. You need to go back and look at races with clear eyes, take the goggles off and look at the entire field. And that's when you learn things, if horses had bad trips, got caught inside, or if it was a muddy track and you see that the horse really didn't like mud in his face and so forth. That's how you learn. Those are the things you don't read in a racing form, but are able to see through replays, and I've said it over and over again, and it was the key 4 years ago when we nailed that $9,000 try. I didn't have the actual winner of the Kentucky Derby as my key selection. I had him in my grouping, but the horse I was keying off was the horse that ran second and was a major, major long shot, and I was using him all over the place because of something I saw in his last prep race that went unnoticed to most people. It didn't to me, and when that horse was turning for home at a big, big number, I was pretty loud at the South Point Sportsbook that Saturday, that first Saturday in May, and it was a fun day for sure.
I can still hear the echoes, Marco, from that instance. So we did our draft pod yesterday anyway, but let's get into the 147th edition of the Run for the Roses. I got to tell you, man, I just watched the movie Secretariat again, and it pumps me up. I mean, I love the Triple Crown races. It does. Sorry, it does. I don't know what you think of the movie.
Oh, I love the movie. When you said it, what I laughed at is that every year before March Madness begins, I have to watch the movie Hoosiers.
Right,
with
right.
Gene Hackman, to get me pumped up.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of people streaming Draft Day today. But, I want to ask you about that horse because I was just a wee lad back then, Marco. I wasn't, just getting out of diapers. I wasn't quite allowed to bet then. But I have to ask you, did you win some money on Secretariat that year?
I remember I wasn't that old back then yet, either, my friend. But I do remember watching the Triple Crown and, the historic call with him just, keep opening up. And, if they would have went around the track again, he might have lapped the field the way he was pulling away. It was, people don't realize, these horses are true athletes as well. And, I get to do things on both ends of horse racing. I love the sport as far as being a gambler, and some might call me a degenerate. I've been, betting on sports and horses since I was 10 years old. But I'm also on the other side of the fence with horses. As you know, Kiev, I do own some race horses. I have since 1986. And so I get to see the sport from both ends. And, I can tell you, everybody loves cashing winning tickets, that, adrenaline rush, the high, however you want to describe it. There is no high greater than that feeling when you're watching your horse race, a horse you actually own. And in my case, I actually breed as well. So if this is a homebred that, I owned the mother and, bred, raced her and then bred, her and racing her babies, they are like my kids. And I can tell you that there's no feeling like it watching your horse thunder down the stretch and get up for the win. So, this is definitely a true passion for me, as well as something that I like to make money at.
Well, 100%, man. I mean, you do a lot of harness racing back in Pittsburgh. So, you've been in the industry forever, and that's why we love having you so much on this show, man. And, funny about looking at this race here, you have a couple. You still have that big favorite, right? Last year was a little bit more mixed. There's some horses that couldn't make it. There's some injuries last year. Might even been a suspension or two. But you have Essential Quality, and he's at 2-1 here. And I guess that's probably the best place that I can think to start at. Is this a horse that's a deserving favorite at this price at 2-1?
Well, absolutely. He's answered all of the bells so far. Undefeated, 5 for 5, danced in all of the big dances, won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at 2, then won both of his starts this year. Got a little bit of a later start this year than they would have wanted. And I'm going to just make a reference. I might have been the best thing for him because they had some weather issues and things going on at Oaklawn where he was stabled at, and didn't get his first start till the end of February. So generally speaking, trainers like to have 3 starts heading into the Derby. He's going to only have 2 starts this year. This will be his 3rd. But I'm going to go back to Baylor. in the national championship. And I said all along with Baylor heading into the tournament, everybody said, Baylor had that long time, that gap because of COVID. They were shut down for like 3 weeks. I said it was the best thing that could have happened to them. This was a team, we knew how good they were. We saw what they had before the shutdown. They got to rest. They got to have fresh legs. They avoided injuries. How many teams did we see down the stretch? Villanova lose a key player, Virginia, Michigan. They avoided all of that. They were fresh and healthy heading into the big race or the big dance. And now you have the same thing with Essential Quality because there has been a little bit of a jinx over the years. The horses that won that Breeders' Cup Juvenile automatically is the early season favorite for the Kentucky Derby when the winter pool comes out, the futures book. And those horses generally have not done well because the Breeders' Cup is run so late in their 2-year-old season in November. And then you come right back and get on that Derby trail in January. Horses don't perform well. Maybe they peaked too soon or took too much out of them at 2. I think him only having the 2 starts is going to be a benefit for him, and he deserves to be the favorite. He has the perfect style. He can sit right off the pace to make his first run when they hit the top of the stretch. So he's going to be there first or second in this race, but as we go down through the card, there is a horse I think that can beat him. And I like it. I like him, but I will not be throwing Essential Quality out. He will be on my tickets for sure and deserves the 2-1 morning line favorite. All
right. Well, there you go. A little hint to the future of what Marco's going to be telling us maybe later in this podcast here. Which horse, and I have my PPs in my daily racing form up as well. And there's a couple of horses that intrigue me. But before I get into that, which horse is going to be taking the lead here and setting the pace in this race? And how fast do you think these fractions will go?
Well, the thing is, in a lot of these prep races leading in, we had some very marginal fractions set because so often the powerhouse stables, and by powerhouse stables, I talk about obviously the big names right away. Baffert, Pletcher, Chad Brown, and a guy that's emerged on the scene the last couple years who happens to be the trainer of Essential Quality, Brad Cox. These guys have been loaded. They have a ton of horses every year. They start the season with maybe, a stable like Bob Baffert. He'll have 30 yearlings every year, or more. Well, naturally, when you're starting with that many bullets in your gun, you're going to get some that get there and will be on the Derby trail. But these guys are very smart in what they do is they send them all across the country not to race against one another. So a lot of times, some of these prep races are tougher than the other ones. Some come up a little bit short on talent-wise or depth, let's put it that way. And we will see horses that can dictate the pace, and other horses don't want to run at them, and then they get soft fractions. That's not going to happen here. We're going to have an honest pace because there are several horses that do like the lead, but yet they're going a distance that these horses haven't gone yet, so you don't want to burn yourself out. And I think that it's going to be a honest pace, but a modest pace. And, when you look down at the morning line or the post positions and the past performances of your daily racing form, there are several horses that have and show that early speed. Midnight Bourbon is a horse that's always gone forward. You have, as I said, Essential Quality likes to sit right off the pace. Rock Your World is a horse that's lightly raced, and we'll be talking a lot about him. He can cut the pace or he can sit second. The fact that in the last race, we saw a total change of style from this horse, and he almost beat Essential Quality, and that was highly motivated. And I think the reason they wanted to take it that way is, one, highly motivated, needed the points to get into the Derby, so they had to be aggressive. And that's something that you have to look at when you're handicapping the final prep races, the final one before the Derby. Sometimes owners, trainers will go full bore to win that purse. Obviously, they're big purses, but yet they don't want to leave the gas tank empty for the Derby, because that's the big picture, the Kentucky Derby. And horses that have enough points, sometimes, hey, if we win, that's great. If we don't, that's okay too. As long as the horse is charging in the stretch and racing well, that's a good foundation and building block heading into the Derby. Essential Quality did want to win his race because he was undefeated, and he did get up in the final stride to win that race. And the reason I point out the undefeated status is, obviously, if this horse runs the table and wins the Triple Crown, wins the Kentucky Derby, and is a horse that then could go to stud undefeated, well, now you're just talking about a whole boatload more of money as far as stud fee and syndication rights go for that horse for breeding purposes. So you have to look at different things like that. Highly motivated, needed the points, and they raced the horse aggressively, and he cut the pace in that race and held on till the final few steps, got nipped at the wire. So it's going to be interesting. 20-horse field. Sometimes a horse that wanted to get to the front, if he doesn't break clean, those plans go up in smoke, and you get caught wide in the turn, and it changes everything. So you can look on paper and say, hey, there's 4 or 5 horses here that look like they want the lead, but it's all going to depend on that break. And with 20 horses, we've seen sometimes they don't all come out of the gate straight. Some of them like to take a left or right-hand turn, and that's something that you don't want to see happen, and is a problem with when we talk about racing styles. There's pace setters, the front runners. There's the horses that sit just behind the leaders. Then the next group is called stalkers, where they're like mid-pack, but they're close enough to the pace that they don't have to deal with as much traffic problems, because 20 horses, you get traffic problems in a race. And then you have closers, and then you have what are called deep closers that come from the clouds. Deep closers traditionally have not done well in the Derby. 2 reasons. They don't always get a fast pace up front, which you need a fast pace if you're coming from, dead last or in that final flight of horses, 3 or 4 horses at the back of the pack. Plus, if you're coming from the back of the pack, that means there's 18, 19 horses in front of you, and so many things can go wrong when you're making a move, because there's horses that were in front early in the race and might be tiring and backing into you. And then there's other horses trying to make moves as well and might beat you to a hole that opens up, and then you got to check your horse and lose momentum. So if you're betting closers and deep closers, you need 2 things: fast pace and a clean trip. And in a 20-horse field, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's absolutely. What would you categorize Essential Quality as? Tactical speed, closer?
Tactical speed that will set just off the pace.
Okay, there you go. So obviously this is a little farther than he's ran. The Bluegrass was 1.1 miles. This is about 1.25 miles, right?
Correct.
Would that be 10 furlongs, I believe? And so do you think that he has the breed to make it this far? It looks like a Tappet sire.
Yeah, Tappet has no problem with distance. He's bred for this distance, and this is a horse that he has shown, and especially in that race with Highly Motivated, the way they raced that horse aggressively, that was the first time that he really, really had to fight a horse off in the stretch to get up, and he showed his grit, determination. In horse racing, we like to call it heart. He showed that, but there's going to be the problem in this race as compared to the other races. He maybe only had to put 1 or 2 serious horses away. Here he's going to have to put away 3 or 4 serious horses. And after he does that, has to worry about somebody coming off of his back, which happens so often in horse racing. You see a horse battle that horse on the front end. They go toe-to-toe the whole way down the stretch, and he finally gets past that horse, and then it's a horse coming off of his back that hasn't engaged anybody yet and breezes by. So if he wins this race, he definitely is, not that you can take anything away from his 5 for 5 so far, but definitely would stamp him as a legitimate Triple Crown threat if he gets through this one.
All right. Well, we should probably bring up the weather here. I'm seeing something saying it could rain that day. Did you take a look at that yet?
Yeah, the early reports were that we were going to see rain Wednesday and Thursday at Churchill. Now, they were definitely correct yesterday. It was ugly for the racing scene yesterday. Being that I am on this show doing this one with you today, I haven't seen the track condition yet for today, but the advanced weather report was that it was going to clear up Friday and we were going to be okay on Saturday. That's what I'm hoping for. You'll like to see everybody race on an even playing field. And I know that sounds silly because you're saying, well, if it's dry, they're all running on a dry track. If it's a wet track, they're all running on a wet track. This is true, but a lot of times these good horses, they only have a handful of starts so far. And some of them may never have been on a sloppy track yet. And if it turns up to be a muddy day, then that throws another, question into your handicapping. Is this horse, as we like to say, a mudder? It was his mother a mudder, and you just don't know how a horse is going to react on a muddy track till he gets that mud thrown in his face. Now, obviously, if you have a front runner, kind of hard to get mud thrown in your face if you're the one on the lead. So a lot of times people will like to look to the front runners, first time on a muddy track because shouldn't have a problem. But then, I hate to complicate things to you, there's different kinds of mud. There's, if it really rained super hard in the track, the dirt is, kind of washed away and you're almost down to, what looks like a concrete pavement in a hard track. That runs differently. And if you got a horse that's got any kind of foot problems, they get a little leggy late in the mile because it stings them more. If you have a horse that's had maybe some soft tissue issues in the past, if it's a deep, heavy mud, well, then the horse's hoofs go further down into the dirt, which means when they're pulling their feet out of that, there's almost like a suction because, a horse's hoof, if you ever look, there's a little bit of a arch there, and then they have the horseshoe on it. So when their foot goes down into the mud, it creates a seal, and as they're pulling it out, you're almost, you're popping that suction, and that can bother horses as well. So the easiest thing is, man, let's just have a dry track, and then we don't have to worry about adding extra questions to the equation.
Yeah, 100%. Let's have a dry track here, please, And, going back to the pace setters in this, I'm looking at the number 1 horse, and it's interesting to me. I know they changed the gates up, I think the year before last, right? So I think the 14 gates a little bit better now. It's all one instead of 2 being put together. And I think the one spot is a little bit more off of the rails it was before, if I'm saying that correctly. Known Agenda is next to some 50-1 horses in the 1 spot. And we normally don't love the 1 spot for the Kentucky Derby because of all these horses that could crowd them in. But, like the King 50-1, Brooklyn Strong 50-1, is there a chance like he can pop out pretty easily and be the pace leader in this race?
Absolutely not. This horse has no gate speed at all. He always gets out of the gate poorly. He is one of those horses that is a closer. The one post until the last year, was said to be a death sentence for a horse. Now, going back to that, and I love going back to mention that big score I had. The horse that I was keying on actually had the number 1 post. And that's why nobody was using the horse, because he had the number 1 post. In that instance, he had a jockey, Corey Lannery, who knows Churchill Downs very well. And if you remember back in the heyday, Calvin Burrell, they used to, emphasize his last name was Borrell. They would say Borrell because he was a rail-hugging son of a gun, saving ground. The horse that I had that day was a stone-cold closer. So he doesn't get out of the gate well anyways. So the concern is, if you're a speed horse and you don't break cleanly from the rail, what happened with the way the gate was before is it was almost like a tidal wave of the outside horses converging down to the rail as they were getting to that first turn, and the horse would get pinched off, get pushed back further than the horse liked to be. And, in general, horses' natural tendencies, they don't like to be in close quarters. If you ever have the choice, coming down the stretch, coming off the top of the turn, to stay on the inside and sneak through the rail, or swing 1 or 2 wide and be on the outside, jockeys 99% of the time are going to swing wide to give the horse that open daylight look, rather than a tighter, which maybe it's a depth perception thing that some horses don't like to run in through the tight quarters. Known Agenda is going to have to navigate, and I did downgrade Known Agenda because this was a horse that I was going to use higher in my selections since they added blinkers 2 starts ago. This horse has raced tremendously, but he's going to have some traffic trouble. But the thing that they have done with combining the gate is that 14 and 15 post position before, it was 2 separate gates. Post 15 started what was called the auxiliary gate. So there was a space between the 2 gates. Because there was that space, it was actually an advantage for post 14 and 15 because they had a little bit more room, and it was a disadvantage because the one started right down against the rail. Now, because they made it one long 20-gate starting gate, they were able to move the gate further away from the rail, giving the rail horse a better, clearer shot moving forward.
Right. So good stuff there. I'm kind of glad they made that decision. And I suppose, it gave some handicappers that know horse racing an advantage beforehand, maybe. But at the same time, you wanted an even playing field, right, Marco?
Absolutely. And that goes again to the novice player. Most people would think, I drew the post 1. I'm going to travel the shortest distance. That's the best. And in reality, because of, in most instances that would be true, but not in a 20-horse field. And again, most people, and that's why they did pitch that number 1 horse 4 years ago with the big score. Thank you for pitching him. I appreciate it.
100%. You sure did appreciate that, my man. Well, quick weather update. Yeah, 10% chance of rain now. High is 74. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day here. And want to clarify, for special events, I did mention Bet Online. I don't want to be wrong. It's $100,000 for the Kentucky Derby. So I didn't want to be wrong for our listeners. And obviously, Bet Online is one of our affiliates. So if you need an account there, please go betonline.ag/theoddsbreakers. Let's move on to the next question then, Marco. And I guess we can go right to who are we throwing off our ticket? Who doesn't have a chance to hit the board?
Well, I've got several horses that I put in that category, and I'll run through them fairly quickly for you. The 2 horse, Like the King, I'm not using him at all. The number 3 horse, Brooklyn Strong, I have pitched him. And what I do when I'm handicapping a race like this, Kiev, is I put the horses in what I call, I give them three ratings, A, B, C, and D. D horses those are the ones that failed. I'm not looking to use those. Brooklyn Strong is a D horse. The 4 horse Keep Me in Mind is a D horse. Strolling through, let's see if we have any other Ds. Number 12 horse, although he is undefeated, Helium, and he did run over my money in his last race, the Tampa Bay Derby. If he wins again, he will run over my money once again. I just don't like this horse. I have him as a D. I have Hidden Stash as a D. Hidden Stash is a horse that is one of the better closers in the race, but this is a horse that has a tendency to find traffic troubles and needs a fast pace up front. Just too many things have to go right for him. I pitched him. And that looks like Super Stock, number 18. Great backstory on this horse. This is truly a family affair with this horse, with the trainer, Steve Asmussen. His son actually rode the horse in his first couple races. His mom and dad own a portion of the horse, but got an absolutely perfect trip in the last race to win, to get here to the Derby. I don't see that happening, and the 18 post kills him. And then the 20 horse, Bourbonic, who did win the Wood Memorial, 20 post, I do not see him reaching from there. I gave him as a pitch as well.
All right, good stuff. Thank you for that. So before I forget to bring this up, I find it very interesting. Baffert, I'm only seeing one horse from Bob Baffert in here, and I'm seeing a bunch of Pletcher horses in this Derby. What's going on with Baffert this year?
Yeah, it's not that he didn't start with a lot of horses. He had some injuries. He had Concert Tour, which a lot of people thought were going to be one of the favorites here for the Derby. Just didn't race well in that last race, and they decided that this distance, not the best for him. I think they're pointing him to the Preakness. He does have, one horse left. You can't have a Derby without Bob Baffert. And if you remember last year, he was down to his last bullet last year, too. He had 2 of them heading into the Derby and had one scratched, the day of the Derby, reared up and went over backwards and everything. And it was the other horse that ended up winning the Derby for him, Authentic. This year, he heads to the Derby with number 8, Medina Spirit. This horse, you can't fault anything this horse has done. 5 starts. He's been in all 5 exactas, 2 wins in 3 seconds. That's exactly what you want to see. But, man, I have a hard time of looking past the pedigree. You don't see big names here on the breeding, and that's why this horse originally sold for, are you ready for this, Kiev?
Yeah.
$1,000.
Oh my God.
That's okay. Now the person that bought him for $1,000 was tickled pink when he flipped this horse and sold him as a 2-year-old in training for $35,000. He's like, hey, just a few months, I did 35X. Yay me. Well,
35 to 1 odds on that one.
yeah, great. But now the people that bought him for $35,000, they're going, yay me. They've made over $300,000 and they got a horse in the Derby. So a little backstory on that one. Yes, this is a Medina Spirit for Bob Baffert, is a horse that needs to be looked at and used in the exotics. I just don't have him as one of the top contenders to win the race. I actually put him in my C category, which means he'll make a few exactas and definitely be on my trifecta tickets and superfecta tickets.
All right. Well, without giving out too much information, can you give us a long shot that could win this race?
A long shot that's going in the right direction. Obviously, I'm going to look at a horse. Let's go to Todd Pletcher. Dynamic One is an interesting horse. His buyer figures are going up with every start. The problem is he hasn't shown that he can go the speed that's going to be needed to win this one, but he's heading in the right direction. And in his last race, he did get collared right at the wire. Very gutsy performance. The horse got caught wide in the first turn, then had to not only be caught wide, but then had a horse slide out in front of him in which a jockey had to grab him and check him, and then still was able, after that adversity at the beginning, to get himself back into position in the last turn, and coming off the turn, made a tremendous move and passed every horse and looked like he had the race won until his stablemate came from dead last out of the clouds to nip him at the wire. I honestly think that Jose Ortiz, who doesn't make many mistakes, him and his brother Irad are two of the best jockeys in the country, I don't think he saw the other horse coming at all, because he was towards the inside and the other horse was flying way on the outside and, came from the clouds, as I said, and just couldn't get the horse, back up going to hold him off and got nipped at the wire. I think this horse has a license to improve. He is number 11. Number 17 in Dynamic One is 20-1. Number 17, highly motivated. That's the horse I told you they raced really aggressively in his last start and raced well on the front end. I don't know that he can cut the mile in a 20-horse field and hold off all of the other challengers that he's going to have to in this race. But this is a horse definitely going in the right direction. Has 3 straight 90-plus buyer figures. And you look at this horse, it's his only 2 starts this year, and he got a late start, didn't race until March. 3rd start off the layoff is generally the best race for a horse that's coming off a long layoff. He was off from November to March, and Chad Brown, he's one of those guys. We talk about quarterbacks in the Super Bowl that's, won all kinds of things, but yet didn't win a Super Bowl. That's Chad Brown. He's won just about every race out there, but the Super Bowl of horse racing, the Kentucky Derby. He's got a shot here, but 10-1, I think the odds needed to be a little bit higher to really classify him as a long shot contender, but he is a horse to consider. And if you really want to throw one long shot that I'll have on my tickets, I'll share that with you. I did find one of the 50-1 shots that we are going to give a little look to, and that is number 5, Sainthood. And the reason for that, this is a horse that's raced only 3 times Kiev. So you've heard me talk about horses have that license to jump up and make that big leap. Like you say, where'd that race come from? Well, we haven't seen the ceiling on the horse yet. And the horse is improving with his buyers, hasn't cracked the 90 mark yet, so we do need that jump. But what did impress me in his last race is when he was making his move at the top of the stretch, this horse basically almost got to a stop because there were 2 horses that bumped each other in front of him, right in front of him, when he was about to split horses, and his jockey had to grab him up hard. And most young horses, once you do that, they're done. This horse re-engaged after almost being stopped and was flying at the end to finish second. If he improves off that, this is a horse that could be flying at the end and picking up pieces at a big number. And oh, by the way, who's riding this horse? I mentioned him earlier, Corey Lannery, somebody that knows his way around Churchill Downs and how to save ground. So number 5, Sainthood, is my little long shot special that I'm going to throw on the ticket to help inflate my trifectas and superfectas.
All right, good stuff. Thank you for that. Without giving out too much information, then how are you going to play this race? Are you going to do any win play shows, or is it going to be mostly verticals?
Yeah, I'm going to do a lot of verticals. This is a race I go very deep with verticals because of the inflated pool. And I said there was a horse that I was looking at. Now, I have not etched my play in stone because we are waiting on weather, and in case there is any last-minute scratches. It seems like every year for the Kentucky Derby, we find somewhere where, somebody ends up scratching and maybe it's a speed horse that then changes the complexion of the race. But the horse that I was talking about that's heading in the right direction is Rock Your World. This is a horse that is just peaking at the right time. Only 3 starts. You've heard me talk about that over and over. Has the license to make the big jump. He's 3 for 3. Was so impressive in the Santa Anita Derby. Reminds me of Justify as far as lightly raced heading into the Derby. Undefeated. And if you remember the old adage, until Justify did it, there was only one other horse that ever won the Kentucky Derby that hadn't raced at 2. This horse did not race at 2, but he only missed not racing at 2 by 1 day. Technicality. His first start was on New Year's Day. He missed it. He missed avoiding that asterisk by 1 day. So I think Rock Your World is a horse that can pull the upset over Essential Quality. He has great tactical speed, will leave, has been on the lead or sitting second or third. Personally, I would rather have him sitting second or third in this race and have a target to pounce, and he'll be the first horse that then would have run on the horses turning for home. And when you're sitting first, second, or third, obviously you're generally not going to have traffic problems. That's also a big plus. Now, the little backstory on this one is this horse is undefeated in the 2 races that his last 2 that he won was with Rispoli, a great young jockey at Santa Anita and Del Mar, West Coast rider. John Sadler made the decision when Joel Rosario became available because Concert Tour is skipping the Derby. He opted to change jockeys. And generally, you do not see that happen, on a horse that's undefeated. Obviously, the jockey did nothing wrong. I feel bad for Rispoli, but picking up Rosario, he picks up a lot of experience, one of the hottest jockeys in the country, and knows how to rate a horse and get every last ounce out of him. So Rock Your World at 5-1, I think, is the value play in this race.
All right, my man. Great stuff there. Rock Your World. Couple long shots there. Thank you for that. We have a hard stop going right now. So real quick, where can our listeners find your great information and plays for this weekend?
Well, guys, what I would suggest, you can do one of 2 things. You could head over to Wager Talk on Saturday, pick up a package. I'll have all of my sports plays on Saturday available, along with my Kentucky Derby selections for $39. Or if you want to jump on board, I got a 3-day all-access package. Great way to introduce yourself to my plays. And guys, right now, over the last 22 days, my hockey, NBA, and baseball is on a 29-13 run the last 22 days. $69, you can pick up 3 days, all access, get everything, including the Kentucky Derby. Just head over to wagertalk.com and go to my homepage.
All right. Thank you so much, Marco, for coming on and breaking down the 147th Run for the Roses. Really appreciate all your information. Thank you again, and good luck this weekend.
No problem. Anytime, Kiev. You know I love talking horses. And generally, I talk a lot longer. But unfortunately, I had a hard stop today. So that's a benefit for your listeners. They don't have to have me go long-winded.
Oh, I could have went a lot longer too, Marco. We'll talk to you soon, bud. All right. Well, that was fun. Now let's get into a little UFC this weekend. We have a UFC event fight night, and I actually kind of like some of the fights coming in. I have one play for sure, and it's the main event that I'm going to share with you guys. We got Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prochazka, and this is a situation where I'm going to be different than what I normally do. All right. Normally, I fade the hype, and Yuri is kind of coming into the hype. Dominic Reyes has done a great job in the UFC. 12-2 is his fight record, right? And his only losses were his 2 most recent fights against John Jones everybody loses to him, right? And obviously the champ, Jan Blachowicz. So can't really take away too much for that. He's fought some decent fighters. Volkan Oezdemir, Chris Weidman, who just snapped his leg last weekend. Oh my goodness, was that gruesome. Ovens St. Pro, he went to decision with. I mean, looking at this and looking at what Yuri's done, only one fight in the UFC so far, you would think that Reyes would be a massive favorite here. But he's not, because Yuri's fought in the Risen for a long time. Beat guys like Fabio Maldonado, Muhammad Lawal, CB Dalloway. And then he comes into the UFC and beats up Volkan Oezdemir as well in the second round with 49 seconds. All right. The thing about this is you actually have Yuri as a favorite at minus 125. Normally, I fade this hype, but the price tells you there should be hype on Yuri, because Yuri is just a different type of fighter, man. He is 24-2-1 for his wins, 27-3. His only 3 losses came way back before 2016 when he didn't even know how to fight yet. And he can handle the ground game. And he's got one of the best stand-ups that I've seen, even though he hasn't fought much in the UFC. 24 KOs, 2 submissions, and 1 decision. Yuri is sitting here at minus 125 in some books, minus 135. This price is going to go up. And I do like what Dominic Reyes has done. I do. And you can't punish him. But I just think that Yuri is better. Yuri's fought a lot more fights, even though they weren't just all in the UFC. Okay? Yuri is the guy that can knock you out. Dominic Reyes doesn't get knocked out much, but in his 2 losses on his total 14 fights, he does have 1 KO against him, and that was against Jan Blachowicz, and he's got that 1 decision against John Jones. I'm going to lay the small juice here with Yuri, because I think that Yuri is the better fighter here. I actually think Yuri is probably the 2nd or 3rd best contender in the light heavyweight division. I actually think it's Jan, then Glover Teixeira, and then Yuri Prochazka. UFC has it: Glover Teixeira, Alexander Rakic, Dominic Reyes 3rd, and Thiago Santos 4th, and then Yuri. So I think Yuri is the next guy right behind Glover to fight Jan Blachowicz. So that's what I'm looking at. I think Yuri's going to win this one, and I think it's going to be a KO. We'll lay the minus 125 for 3 stars. My friends, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions about the Kentucky Derby or anything else, please tweet us at the Oddsbreakers or tweet Marco at Marco in Vegas. Have a great time watching the Derby. Go get some mint juleps, have some beers, enjoy yourself, and go get some winners.